Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt. You might remember me from such fine internet programming as The Dark Path, as well as various streams over the past few years, even here on a few appearances on Heavy Metallurgy. But I am joining the Heavy Metallurgy team to talk to you about the new album Ontological Mysterium by Philadelphia's Horrendous. This is their latest album, released just about a week or so ago through Season of Mist Records, and we're going to get into it. Those of you who might not be too familiar with Horrendous, this is a band that's been around for quite some time. You know, they released their first demo, Sweet Blasphemies, back in 2009, which subsequently got reissued by Dark Descent Records the following year. That was quickly followed by their first full-length album, The Chills, in 2012. That was quickly followed up by Ecdysis in 2014. Then you had Anareta in 2015, and then you had Idol in 2018, and then they kind of disappeared for 5 years. And quite honestly, I kind of forgot about this band after Idol was released because it just kind of, it seemed like it came and went, you know. This was a band that just seemed to fall off the face of the earth after that record came out, which is very surprising to me because that was their first album on Season of Mist Records, and Season of Mist is a much bigger label than Dark Descent. So I don't really know what happened there, and it's not really important because we are here to talk about 2023's Ontological Mysterium. This is a band that I find has always played very comfortably in a couple of different places in underground metal. You know, they are very, very firmly rooted in the technical and progressive styles of death metal, but I find that they also fit very comfortably in with all of those modern cavernous death metal bands, the 20 buck spin death metal bands that, you know, the kids today apparently love. And then they kind of mix a lot of those things together while wearing their influences very proudly on their sleeves and their battle jackets. When you listen to a band like Horrendous, you get a lot of homage to the greats that came before. You take their first album, The Chills, for example. That is a record that you could listen to very easily with any like old school Swedish death metal record of your choosing, and it'll be very comfortable there. Whereas everything that they've done after that has kind of followed the Chuck Schuldiner death aesthetic of upping the technicality with each and every release. And that started very, very strongly on Ecdysis and really moved all the way up to today with Ontological Mysterium. You know, they follow that very technical way of playing that, you know, Chuck Schuldiner and a lot of these other technical death metal bands are really known for. And, you know, because of this, I've always felt Horrendous was a band that didn't really come into their own until Anareta came out in 2015. Everything that they had done before then seemed like it was just kind of in tribute to the bands that they were very, very influenced by. And it wasn't until Anareta came out where I started to hear the actual voice of Horrendous. They, you know, while still very obviously loving the stuff of yesterday, they were updating that sound for today and doing all of the things that the bands today do for the youth of today that people like. All of that cavernous stuff, all of that technical stuff, all that guitar noodling, all these kind of things that everybody seems to like about modern death metal. Horrendous is right there mixing that with the old school, and that's one of the reasons why they were always one of my favorite bands out of this newer upswell of death metal bands, because I felt like they played very comfortably in a couple of different worlds. band that really was on a huge trajectory, like very similar to bands like Blood Incantation, where they were doing all of these tours, these big, huge festivals. They were doing decibel tours. I mean, they seemed like they were, really on the climb and on their way up, and then they disappeared for 5 years. So, that leaves us with this year's Ontological Mysterium. And how does it hold up? Well, I gotta tell you, the one thing about this record, apart from this really creepy, Lovecraftian meets hell artwork that all of their albums tend to play with, this album lets you know right out of the gate that they are ready and willing to play everything that they love about extreme underground metal for you, the fans of Horrendous. Now, this is one of the things that I think really stands out about Ontological Mysterium is the energy behind it. The energy behind this record, it's just in your face all the time, nonstop, from the start of the record to the end of the record. It's almost like they were like a bear coming out of hibernation, and they've had this big long 5-year sleep, and now they're ready to just come out and ferociously shred everything around you. And that is basically what this record is. It is just a nonstop onslaught of riff after riff after riff that literally runs the gamut of everything that they have ever done, since all the way back in Sweet Blasphemies, all the way through Idol. They kind of mix it all together, but up that intensity level to the next level for Ontological Mysterium. It's the one thing that, bands like this who tend to rely very heavily on their influences, a lot of these kind of bands kind of falter with that because, I don't need a 15th band that sounds like Cannibal Corpse. I've already got Cannibal Corpse. I don't need 50 bands that sound like Morbid Angel. I've already got them on my frickin' wall, right? So, when you got a band like Horrendous that is very obviously playing with those old school influences but modernizing it for today's audience, they're one of the few that I think kind of has their own voice, and a lot of that is because they're not only giving tribute to those old bands, but they're weaving in like this undercurrent of classic heavy metal with it that just gives this interesting contrast between these three worlds that they play in. The tides rise again. In a nutshell, that is basically what this record is. It is a showcase, a very energetic showcase of everything that you love about underground metal. I mean, it will appeal to those of you that like the old school death metal. It will appeal to those of you that like the modern cavernous death metal, and it'll appeal to those of you that like a lot of proggy and technical stuff in your metal. This band will mix it all together and then throw something at you from that doesn't seem like it should be in there. Like all of a sudden you'll hear these weird black metal shrieks and you're like, where is that coming from? That should not be here. That's not what a band like Horrendous is good for. But here it is on Ontological Mysterium. It is just a full force, energetic blast of underground metal in your face, played by a bunch of guys who haven't had the chance to do that in a while, and they're very, very eager to put that into your ear holes. And that leads me really to the only thing that I don't like about this record is that eagerness. It is that almost, it's almost too much in a way. There is a lot of guitar noodling on this record. It is in almost every single song throughout the record, just nonstop technical prowess that is just slapping you in the face like a wet spaghetti noodle. Look how freaking talented we are and all of these kind of things that I can do on a guitar. nonstop in your face. And me personally, I really don't like guitar noodling. I find it to be just a little bit pretentious. It's a little bit of showing off in a way. I really feel like a lot of guitar players can fall into this hole where they feel like they have to prove and one-up themselves every single time they write a song or a record. Like, they just have to take it to the next level, and then to the next level, and to the next level. And before you know it, you've got nothing but just, like, crazy virtuoso noodling going on all over the place, and you lose all semblance of a song when that happens. It's one of those reasons why, like, I love technical stuff, I love proggy stuff, but at the end of the day, I just want a good song, you know? I don't need you to show me how much talent you have as a musician. I just need you to write a good song, you know? Why spend so much time writing a 8-minute virtuoso meandering noodly thing when maybe just a couple of simple chords will do that trick for you? It's just kind of showing off and doing too much, and that, unfortunately, is a thing that happens a lot on Ontological Mysterium. You know, on a first listen, I really, really liked this album. I liked it a lot. But there was something about it that just didn't really sit well with me. And after listening to it a few more times, it's that guitar noodling. It's just way too much. It's just all over the place, when really they should have just sat down, trimmed things down, kind of, made a nice compact message for Ontological Mysterium and put that out there as their album, rather than this hyper-energized kind of a record that just, it shows a band that's ready to get out there and just shred, just play. And I get it, they've been gone for a long time. They've been gone for half a decade. And I get the feeling that during these past 5 years, they probably spent a lot of time practicing and writing songs, and just every idea that they had got crammed into these songs, and it just got to the point where after a while it was just non-stop, just one-upmanship going on between these guys to see who can write the best lick, And again, I think that just comes back to, I don't need you to try that hard. I just need you to write me a good song, Now, having said that, this is a good record. I am not trying to dump on this record. I think it is a very solid record. I just wish that they could have edited themselves down a little bit, taken a step back, relaxed, man, and not give me so many wet noodles thrown in my face. It's just too many noodles in my face, and I don't know about you, but I don't like noodles in my face. I don't like noodles that much to begin with, so you really don't have to try that hard. It's kind of, why mansplain a song when the song can just speak for itself? And that's kind of where I'm left at the end of the day with this new record by Horrendous. It's a very fun record. Don't get me wrong. The energy behind it really does kind of pump you up, and it gets you excited to listen to it. It's got a lot of early Pestilence worship mixed in there, and there's a lot of Cynic worship in there too. And of course there's the Death worship and the Swedish worship and all that kind of stuff going on in there too. And at the end of the day, it's just a very fun record, and I think what makes it even more fun, rather than the obvious homage to the bands that I just mentioned, they're kind of working in a lot of this more modern, retro speed metal stuff that I'm starting to see a lot of people kind of go with these days. So you got a lot of that in there too. So you've got this real classic metal sense, toppled by this technical prowess, and then all of this progressive death fun stuff. And that's really all I can say about this record. It's a very fun record. It's a very riff heavy record. It shreds all over the place. I just personally wish they had toned it back a little bit and just let the songs breathe on their own without, pumping so much energy into it. But, nobody's perfect. Everybody, has their own way of writing songs, and maybe I am blowing a bunch of air out of various orifices on my body, but that's just my opinion, and that's what it is. So, having said all of that, I would like to leave you fine folks with the notion that if you like very riff-heavy, progressive and technical death metal with an undercurrent of vintage metal mixed in there, there is absolutely no reason why you would not like Ontological Mysterium. But if you're like me and you get a little tired of your dazzling display of talent, you might want them to, get off that high horse for a track or two, hell, 3 tracks, and just give me a priest banger, And that's where I'm gonna leave you with this. I will see you all again sometime soon. Hopefully, who knows? Be sure to look down in the stuff down there for the video. I'm sure there will be links to a lot of things that might interest you. Be sure you're watching all of the content here on Heavy Metallurgy, and if the mood strikes you, if there is a Dark Path video that you missed, I did leave all of my old videos up for posterity in perpetuity throughout the known universe, so feel free to go and watch more of this silly guy talk a bunch of nonsense at you. And until the next time, everybody, I still believe, and I will see you again soon.